I know some of the things that are happening now are so heartbreaking. It's really getting humanity to see what we don't want to create anymore. Like, this is enough. Hello, so my name is Natasha. I am from Australia. I am a healer, a channel, a teacher, very much a student as well. I love sharing my knowledge and my experience with my own spiritual awakening, and that most of that came from the start of my near-death experience. So yeah, it's been a journey for the last 30 years to discover what spirituality is and the awakening. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. So when I was 7 was when I had the near-death experience, and I was brought up in a Christian home. It was Seventh-day Adventist, which is quite structured. There's quite a lot of rules to that religion. And so yeah, after my near-death experience, I had a lot of questions that I had for my family and for the church that I felt like couldn't really quite be answered to how I felt inside. So it's been a journey to discover the answers to those questions that I had at a young age. When I was 7, I went to my cousin's place. We were just having a normal weekend catch up with my cousins, and they lived in a town in New South Wales, so close to Sydney, if anyone knows that area. And there was a lot of trees and bushes, and I had grown up being allergic to pollens and certain types of grass. And so when playing normally, as children do in the backyard, they had a lot of bush in the backyard. And I was born with asthma, so I used to carry my asthma puffer everywhere that I went. But for some reason this day I had forgotten it. It was just an oversight that all of me and my family, we just forgot it one day. And so we were playing, and I was starting to get a little bit of pollens and a little bit of allergy from the bush. And so I was trying to breathe for a while, and then I went into my cousin's house and said, I was trying to look for my puffer. I couldn't find my puffer anywhere. And so we realized we've forgotten it. We looked in the car, we looked everywhere, we realized that we forgot it. And so then by that stage, my breathing was starting to become more difficult to breathe. And if anyone's had an asthma attack before, there's a bit of panic that happens when you realize, I haven't got my asthma puffer, or I can't breathe. You start to panic a little bit, which definitely doesn't help the process. And so then, long story short, we were making the call to go to the hospital, to take me to the hospital. So my uncle, we were about 30-40 minutes away from the hospital, and my uncle said, I will drive first, and to my dad, you can follow me in the car. And so I remember we were on the way to the hospital, and we were speeding. Like, by that stage it was becoming quite serious. We were just speeding. I remember just going through red lights. I remember at one stage we went through, when you're waiting for the train to come through where there's a crossroad, there's a red light, and I remember the train was actually starting to come, but Dad just went straight through the train line. We didn't have time. And I remember that there was one point where I was saying to my dad, I'm starting to feel really tired. I just want to put my head down and go to sleep. I'm starting to feel tired. And he was saying, no, stay awake. He was doing everything that he could to keep me awake. and I just kept wanting to go to sleep and put my head down in the middle of the car. And so it was one point where I just couldn't fight it anymore, and so I put my head down, and I remember he was yelling like at the top of his voice to try and keep me awake. But at that stage I could hear that his voice was quite distant. It wasn't close, as if someone was yelling at the top of their lungs in the car, it would be quite loud, but it felt quite distant. So I was already starting to remove myself from my body, I feel. And so I started having certain symptoms, which I don't want to go into detail with because it might be a bit graphic and scary for some people. Just some symptoms of, things happening. So my dad chose to make the decision to pull over. And so the first available space that he could find was a correctional facility or a detention centre. And so at that stage they had their recess or their lunch break, and they were in the yard, and all these inmates were, having their lunch or their playtime, whatever you call it, in the yard. And so he pulled out the front and he got out of the car and yelled out at the gate, and he said, "Does anybody know CPR? Can anybody help?" And so one of the inmates said, I know CPR, I can help. So he was allowed to come and perform CPR while they called an ambulance and waited for the ambulance to come. And of course, with supervision, he was allowed to do that. So he kept me alive, or he was trying to keep my heart alive, pumping until the ambulance got there. And so then the ambulance got there, and then they did the defib on me on the way to the hospital. And so after I went to sleep in the car, I don't remember anything else consciously. But then, I'm not sure if you wanted to ask me a question after that. So when I remember this point where I was walking down this path, and there were all these beings on the other side of me, and they were quite scary, and they were trying to grab at me. It was like I was walking down this path at the back of my cousin's place, and all these beings are trying to grab me on the way down this path. I was walking down the center, and so I was dodging them, and they weren't able to get me. And then as I kept walking, they were getting further apart, further away. So I felt, okay, I'm starting to feel protected now, and I'm not, close to them. And then I saw the tunnel that people talk about, like the white light. So I started then walking towards the light, and then the next thing I knew, I was in this white, open space of pure love, pure consciousness. There's no judgment, there's no labels, there's no individuality of anyone. I mean, there's individuality of souls and consciousness, but it's all connected. But I remember being in this space and feeling like, wow, this is home. I don't want to leave. Like, this is incredible. Why would we ever want to go back, to our body? So I remember being in this space and just feeling so full, my heart was so full, and I just felt completely, that's where I was supposed to be, and that's where we all supposed to be. So it was an interesting experience. So when I was in that space, I was saying, I don't want to go. Like, this is it. I want to stay here. This is amazing. And there were these voices, or this telepathic voices that were saying to me, you have to go back, because you aren't finished here. You have things to do. You're going to help a lot of people, and you just can't come back. and I was saying no, like I really don't want to go back, you know, I want to stay here. And they said, no, you have a lot of things to do, yet to do on this earth, and again, you're going to help a lot of people. But even in that, even though that was being said, I still had the feeling that I could choose if I wanted to. So I very much had that feeling that if I really pushed back, if I really said no, or I don't want to, I felt like that was an option for me. But because I heard that I had a purpose and a mission, and I was going to help a lot of people, because when I was a very young child, I always said that I just want to help people. I don't know what it is, but I just want to help people. And so when I heard that, when I heard these voices say to me, you're going to help a lot of people, it was like I had this acceptance that I was going to go back into my body and back to where I was. So then it was a little bit easier to choose, and I felt like, okay, that's okay. Like I'm actually going to make a difference. So that was it. I believe the oneness and the energy is God or source. So when I was younger, I felt like I just knew things, and it wasn't until very old I started to realize that I was quite intuitive. And I've been on a journey and a path to really explore that and actually trust my own ability. It's been more about the trusting than it has been to actually build the intuition, because we all have it inside of us, every single one of us. No one is special, it's just that I had to learn to trust. So I always, from when I was younger, I always felt like I just knew things. And some people get intuition in different ways, and when you build on it, it comes to you in multiple different ways. But yeah, I just felt like I just know this information, and that's how it started for me. And then, so after I spent years of traveling and many different jobs, and then I started to go into massage and Reiki and energy healing. And here I really started to hone in on my intuition even more. Then I started having these dreams, or these these deep dreams and these experiences that someone wanted to speak through me. So I started to feel these sensations in my voice box. I started having dreams that my voice was getting taken over, and it wasn't a scary thing. It was just like I knew that something had to come out and something wanted to be said through me. And so yeah, I just kept following the breadcrumbs as you do on this path of awakening and your spiritual journey. And it just led me to starting to do automatic writing, which is channeled writing. And so that's how I started my channeling journey, was just automatic writing. And then I would notice that the things that were coming onto the page were things that I would never say, or using words that I hadn't used before, and it was in perfect context. So the information that was coming through was helping me. And so then, even then, it took me, I would say, at least 2 years for me to actually feel comfortable to say, this is what I do, because I kind of felt a little bit crazy for it as well. I was like, I don't want to be like one of those. For me, it's important that I stay relatable to people as well. I like to be grounded in my spirituality, and I don't like to be, up here. So it took me a while to actually get the confidence or the courage to say what I was doing, and for people to take me seriously. So now I just share. It comes out through in my healings, and I share on YouTube as well the messages. So You know, if it helps me, that's just something like anything else on my journey. If it helps me, I want to pass it on to others. And it's not for everyone, and I understand that. But, you know, if it's helping somebody, then so be it. But I'll always say to people that you can take or leave it. You know, what I'm saying doesn't have to be your truth. It's just what's helping me, and I just feel like I have to share it. Yeah, so guys, but even more than that, I've been able to tap into different types of masters, ascended masters that have come through that I didn't even necessarily know anything about, but I just felt and got used to the feeling of this is this energy, and then I would go and Google it, and then all this information was being, what's the word? Confirmed. Is, to me, it's a consciousness, and it will, 5D is a physical manifestation of our consciousness. So we have to move into the 5D consciousness first, understanding love, compassion, unity, forgiveness, kindness, collaboration. This is some of the aspects of 5D consciousness. So we have to all be in this consciousness first, and then from here we create 5D physical reality. You know, we're recreating what the earth looks like, we're recreating structures, we're recreating how we do business, how we do politics, how we do the medical institution. You know, everything is changing, and will change, but 5D to me is an awareness, and it's a consciousness shift. So it's not necessarily that we're moving to another place, which I know that is a common understanding in this community. It's more a result of what we are going to create by having higher awareness in this reality now. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that now. We're seeing that there's still people trying to figure out how to think for themselves, how to be living in a better way. You know, I know that there's lots of soldiers that are stepping down and saying, no, I'm not fighting this fight. It's not my fight. I don't know why we're fighting. This is not, I don't have a problem with this country, and this is happening. So there's things changing here, but unfortunately, we have to go through certain things to know what we don't want anymore. And I know some of the things that are happening now are so heartbreaking. It's really getting humanity to see what we don't want to create anymore. Like, this is enough. We don't want this anymore. So it has a place, but yeah, hopefully it's enough to get us to stop and look at each other and say, like, is this how we want to create a future, you know? And who is calling for the wars? Why are we fighting? Who's telling us to not like this country or this person? So a lot of this has to come from our own questioning and our own, we have to have our own minds about things and really question everything that we're being told, and not just having this person against this person. And you know, that's in your everyday life too, and that's where it starts. It's, you know, can you work on the harmony in your own relationships in your everyday life? You know, that's where war starts, really. It starts from your own perceptions and your own triggers, your own unhealed traumas. So, you know, we really have to start there and kind of be a little bit grown up and work on those shadow aspects of the self and really truly heal. I believe that we are very much evolving. We're heading in a very positive direction. But, you know, we have to become responsible. We have to become honest with how we are interacting with each other every day. we also have to be self responsible with what kind of solutions we bring to the table for the evolution. So I do feel like we are in a positive momentum. However, there's a lot of growth and a lot of realization and awakening still needed from humanity to understand what their power truly is. So, it is very much up to us, but I do feel like it's heading in a very positive direction. And something I always like to say to people is, instead of seeing doom and gloom, which we might see more of, with different media channels, whether it's alternative media or mainstream media, sometimes it can be overloaded with doom and gloom and bad news. But something I like to say to people is, look out for the positive changes. I see positive changes all the time, people creating new solutions, or more conscious clothing, or chemical free products, things like that. It's happening. So I'm always very I love telling people to look for those changes, because I think sometimes we can get discouraged by the speed of the awakening. And actually, I've been told before, like, the speed is perfect. It's actually on point. If it was to happen any quicker, it wouldn't be good for humanity. And the reason why is because humanity still have not learned how to regulate their emotions properly. We still haven't learned how to perceive situations in a healthy way. We're still learning on that very much getting up and walking stage of understanding who we are, and seeing things from different perspectives. I mean, if you really look at things honestly, people are still fighting. And on social media, it's just little things like that. And the speed of this awakening is happening perfectly. It couldn't happen any quicker. And in fact, if it did, there would be more mental health crisis. There would be more wars. It would be very, very chaotic. So it has to go slow, for people to wake up slowly, and it has to move at this pace. And a lot of people in this community, they might feel like, oh, we want it to happen quickly, but we have to remember that we've had years to process certain truths or certain things that happen behind the scenes. Whereas a lot of people that are only just starting to ask questions now, they need to learn lots of things. They even need to learn how to breathe, or to be present, or how to meditate, or even what meditation is. So yeah, the speed is happening perfectly, but it is in a positive trajectory. He talks about how when he decoded the DNA, there was a message, and it literally said, God eternal within the body. And this is in all of us. So first, like, we are creators of our own experience. We have chosen to come and have these experiences. And I'm not dismissing any pain or trauma that people go through, because it's horrible, some of the things that some of us have had to go through, some people have to experience. But on a soul level, this is like a blip, in our experience. And there is an aspect of you, that chose that experience for your own soul's evolution and growth. So it's not someone that's saying, this person deserves that, or the other person deserves like the best life. It's not like that. It's what you have chosen. And I can say, like, when I've had past life regression, I spent some time up in the middle, between lives, and it is very much like that. You look and see, you as a soul, what the lessons are that you want to continue with, or how you want to evolve. And so you are looking down at all these experiences, and you are choosing which is the best one for you to keep continuing that soul growth. So it's not that some people are punished, and that's why they experience it. It's on a higher level, and it's so hard to say this because I don't want to dismiss anyone's pain because it feels horrible to do that. But on that higher perspective, that's what it is. So we have to learn who we are. We have to learn what we are capable of, what our ancestry is, and beyond the physical form, we have to understand how huge the universe is and our place in it. Understand that we're not the only ones here. Understand that going back into history, they were speaking to other beings. They were getting guidance and direction from other beings to help us evolve. Here, what we're here to learn is how to transcend this difficult reality, which it is. You know, there's a lot of terrible things that happen, so we've come here to learn how to transcend that and master the self. But, you know, we're here to learn our way back to unconditional love through these experiences. And that is, you know, once we achieve that and know our way back to that, we are accessing the highest form of self-mastery. But we're also here to learn what our physical bodies can do. You know, a lot of the time in this community, people talk about ascension, you know, and leaving the body and ascending. And, you know, that's really just about understanding who you are and what you're capable of. I always say that ascension is going within. It's understanding the dimensions within you, because whatever you access within you will be seen and known, you know, as an ancient text says, as within, so without, so as above, so below. So whatever is happening here is also happening within us. There's a universe inside us that we have to unlock and you know, unwind those dimensions and go within. So it's understanding that we're not here to ascend out of our human physical form. It's actually to understand what it can do for us, how it can be used as a tool, how it's an antenna for information. You know, how can we be in this experience but also be connected to the divine? It's set me on a path to know that there's something bigger here, and I've been on this quest ever since. I know that there's something more, and I always desired to have this connection with God, like when I was in the church, you know, at a young age, and even when I went back as an adult, I had this desire to really connect. And I could see that other people had this connection, and I'm like, I can't get this, I'm not getting it, I don't know why. And so I knew that was available. I just had to go on my own path to understand what that was and how it can be felt. And so I have found that now. I have found that at the basis of all religions that are supposed to be good, you know, and have good intentions, is the same lessons. It's teaching unconditional love, it's teaching forgiveness, compassion, understanding, kindness, collaboration, you know, like honoring the self. So through this quest for me to find God or source or the universe or whatever you want to call it, I have found truth in just going within actually myself, and all the answers are within. Everything that we can ascend to and feel and move through is all through the work that you do inside. And you know, it's been interesting because there's been a lot of biblical texts that have come back to me, and I've realized this is what it really means, you know. And then there's lots of ancient texts that talk about knowing thyself, and this is important. This is truly, for me, this is where I have felt the most connection. Is the deeper that I connect with myself, the more I feel that presence, the more I feel God. So yeah, it did definitely change the way that I saw things, and it just put me on this path to find what it was, find that connection, and to find more, you know, more of what I was brought up in. Okay, thank you for joining me today. So you can find me on YouTube, Natasha J. Black, or on my website, www.natashablack.com.au.